Hello everyone, how's it going? Vasco here from the Angular University. In this course we are also going to build the backend that goes along with our application. We will simulate our database with a simple JSON file, but it's important to build a small API that goes along with our front-end store-based solution so that we get an idea of typically what goes over the wire whenever we build a store-based solution from scratch. What type of data should we send, what type of API should we build. We will also see how to integrate a store solution with existing APIs. Now, the first thing that we're going to do here is we are going to create a shared folder where we will put all the code that is shared between our server and our client. And one of the most important things that we are going to define here in the shared folder is the model of our application. So if we go back to our screen, we can see here that this is the view of our application. The view is a projection of a certain business model or domain model, or we can simply call it the model of our application. So what is an example of things that are part of the model of our application? Let's have a look at the view. For example, we have here the notion of a user or participant in a chat discussion. We have the notion of thread, which is composed of a series of messages coming from multiple participants. We have the notion of read and unread messages. And we have here also, for example, the notion of message, which corresponds to a single message of a thread. So these notions, the notion of participant, of thread, of message, these notions make the domain model of our application. Typically, the database will store the most normalized form of that domain model. This is typical, for example, of SQL databases, where we normalize all our data and we split everything across tables that are linked always with foreign keys. And there is never any data repetition. If we need a certain view of that model, we issue a query. And that's where the view comes in. So what we are seeing here on the screen are representations or projections of the domain model. But this is not the domain model itself. What we see on the screen is always a view model. Let me give you an example. For example, the notion of thread. A thread has a list of messages. But what we see here in this square, which contains the currently selected thread, so we will be able to select multiple threads, and the selected thread will be highlighted with this blue background, this square here represents a thread summary. So what is a thread summary? A thread summary is different from a thread. A thread summary is a view model notion. The thread summary contains a string with the names of the participants separated by commas. It contains the text of the last message. So this is a typical example of something that looks like the main model notion, the thread, but it's actually a view model notion, the thread summary, and we could even call it thread summary VM with a postfix at the end to make it clear that it's a view model. This distinction between the model, which is the most normalized form of your business data, and the view model, which is a query that we do on our model in order to display it on the screen, this distinction is essential and it will be present in any program that you build. Even if you don't define types, strong types, to define clearly what is a model, what is a view model. Even if we don't create types to model these notions will still be there implicitly in the program under the form of the data structures that we pass around, even if we only use plain JavaScript objects. In this course, we are going to use TypeScript. We are going to leverage the language to define clearly the types, the custom types of both the model and the view model. Given this, let's start defining the model of our application using TypeScript in the next lesson.